Marcus and I continued to argue. I would tell him to leave or would lock him out. We talked to his mother about our arguments. She told us to establish house rules and told me not to provoke him, but I don't feel that I ever did anything to provoke him. He usually was not in high spirits. I wasn't either, but I did my best to look out for his well-being. I really wanted him happy. So one day I asked him if he wanted a dog, and he said he did. But soon after, I told him that I didn't feel peace about getting a dog. But he stated that I had said I was going to get one, so I needed to go ahead and get the dog. I told him I would, but that the animal would be fully his responsibility, and he agreed. I got him a pit bull puppy. She was cute, but a lot of work, and I deleted a lot of the messages and everything, the pictures in my phone. But if I still have a picture of her, I will share it. Her name was Magenta. You are an adorable puppy. You are. I recall there was a day in June 2021, when I had called the cops on Marcus just to ask them to make him leave. His actions weren't bad on that day, but after he behaved the way he behaved when Trey was there, I no longer trusted him. I no longer trusted anything he said, and I just wanted him gone. I just felt uneasy around him. So he left, but I allowed him back. I recall in July of that year, we met most of my immediate family. We had a wonderful time. My dad introduced Marcus as my fiance. I guess my dad really liked him. So it was July 4th, and my plan was to just, get Marcus a hotel room, and I was just going to stay at my sister's, spend some time with her. But my parents, tried to make me feel bad about that. They said that it was wrong if I had him in a hotel room by himself, even though he and I had already agreed that that was fine for us. So my parents were saying that it was wrong if I just left Marcus in a hotel room and stayed the night with my sister. But, as I reflected on it later, I figured that, hey, they just didn't have in mind the things of God, as the scripture says. So I used to be very double-minded. I think that's partially due to ADHD, but also maybe also just due to brokenness and a lack of confidence. I'm not sure. But I just went and did what my parents told me to do. Marcus and I got a hotel room. We got a room with 2 separate beds that day, and we argued. Recall he wanted us to lie in the same bed, but I was upset with him still. It takes me a really long time to process my feelings. It takes me a while to get over things. But I do recall that day someone was like trying to open up our hotel room door in the middle of the night, and that was like kind of scary. And, I was just telling Marcus, don't let them in. Maybe they have the wrong room. And then once they left, I think I did crawl in bed with him after that because I was afraid. So we got back home to Carrie, and I went through his phone again because it was a bad habit of mine. And I saw that while he was out of the home in June, he had reached out to prostitutes and drug dealers. And so after I saw that, I told him that I wanted him to leave again. I wasn't upset over the cocaine use. I was just upset that he'd slept with someone. So he got on his phone and he walked outside to make some phone calls. And while he was outside, I locked him out. And then while he was locked out, he called the cops to stand by while he got his things. And I saw the next morning that he had put a huge scratch on my car. And if I still have the video I made of that, I will share it. I put Marcus out for good last night, and he keyed my car. So when he and the cop came inside the home, his mother, who was on his phone, asked to speak with me. And she was just like, why are you doing this? She was like, I told you not to go through his phone because you might see things that you might misinterpret. And that was just very manipulative. I did not misinterpret anything. I think his mother may have stopped liking me. I don't even know if she ever truly liked me, but I know she really didn't when she saw that she couldn't control me. There was a time when she was just showing me pictures of cars and she was asking me, don't these look nice? And then, after she showed me the picture, she was like asking me to buy him a car, buy Marcus a car. And I didn't know how to respond to that. So I just said, yeah. But, after I thought about it further, I decided not to get him one. To be honest, I would have given Marcus anything. I would have given him anything he wanted from me. But I just felt like there were too many parallels in his personality, too many parallels to the guy I had married. I didn't fully trust him. I didn't feel like he was all in. But for the rest of that conversation that I had with his mom that night, I'll just put the words on the screen. So I blocked his mother that night and I never spoke with her again. While Marcus was getting his things and the cop was there, I did ask Marcus if he wanted me to give his dog away. Magenta was a wonderful dog, but she just caused me so much stress. Marcus was not taking care of her really. I was just doing everything for her. But when I asked Marcus if he wanted me to give his dog away, he just stated yes, because you don't take care of her, you just starve her out. So that's the picture he was painting of me, that I was being abusive, that I was not taking care of his animal. And he even had the cop believing that, because she emailed me the next morning saying that, she was going to try to get the dog if her husband agreed. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Marcus was like a very likable guy. He made connections easily. I mean, from my point of view, he did. Whether or not he maintains connections, I do not know. But that night, he moved in with his manager, who he told me he felt his manager was gay. And I only mention the fact, when I mention that someone may have been gay or were gay, it's just because certain behaviors affected Marcus or myself. It's not the homosexuality that I'm speaking on, it's the actions. He moved in with his manager. I recall he was talking to me just fine one day over the phone. We were just talking about things. We hung up and I called him back, and I really feel like he had me on speaker that time because he wasn't saying much. So I was just pouring out my heart to him, and he wasn't responding. He wasn't saying much. And again, I think it's because he had me on speaker, because I think his manager was listening in and he wanted to just portray me in a certain light. But on the first call that we had together, he was just telling me that his manager did not seem like someone he would want to live with. He said that his manager basically made him uncomfortable. And Marcus said he was laying on his manager's couch, but his manager just kept saying, "Oh, I don't want you to wear out my couch. Come sleep in my bed. You can sleep in my bed. I'm not trying anything funny." And Marcus said that he told the man no multiple times, and then the guy finally just let out the couch, and it turns out that the couch led out into a bed. I mean, at the end of the day, both men and women were attracted to Marcus. But I do have to wonder, what were his manager's motives for allowing Marcus to stay there? But I continued to look after Magenta for a few more days. Marcus decided he wanted to get her. At this point, he's in a hotel, so I just take Magenta to him. And the next morning when I woke up without her in the home, it was just so nice not to have to smell dog poop, because I'm like, every morning I would just smell dog poop because she would just poop in the living room. So I spent a few days just feeling like, oh my gosh, it's just wonderful to have Marcus and his dog out of my hair. But I asked him again if he wanted to return, and he said yes. So there was just a lot of back and forth in that relationship. I think that asking him if he wanted to return was a combination of me caring about his well-being and wanting him comfortable, as well as missing his company and missing his body. There was a day when I had 6 of my nieces and nephews over, and Marcus was drunk that day. And I remember my 11-year-old niece was just, she was in the living room with us. She was just on the computer playing her little Roblox games. And Marcus sat down on the couch beside her, and he pulled out his pocket knife. He had a really crazy look in his eyes, and all he said was, "Some kids die young, but some live to grow old." And that was really weird. I just took his knife from him. I slowly took his knife from him. And the kids slept in my bedroom that night. Marcus slept in his bedroom, and I slept in the living room. I just really wanted to just keep an eye on everybody because Marcus's behavior that night had made me very uneasy. But the next morning, I took some of the kids back to my brother's house, and the entire way there and back, I was thinking about the ones I had left behind, because I had left 2 of my nieces behind. They were still asleep, in my room, and Marcus was in his room, and my mind was just running rampant, and I'm like, I hope there's not a bloodbath when I return, since he had said that crazy thing the previous night about some kids dying young. But when I returned, everything was calm. Everybody was still asleep. But the next time the kids came over, I did just ask Marcus to get a hotel room, due to his previous behavior. So at the beginning of September 2021, I had put another restraining order on Marcus. He and I argued that day. I actually remember the day. It was September 1st. And I asked him to help me buy tires. But he said he would only loan me the money for tires. I didn't feel like it should be a loan because he used the car as much as I did. So I was taking him to court that morning because he had court for his charges that the city or the county had filed on him in May. So I just pulled the car over and I told him I wasn't taking him to court since he wasn't trying to pay for the tires. And he started to get out the car, and I felt like he might try to hit me. But yeah, that's exactly what he did. He hit me on the arm a few times, and then he got out. And then I was a member of a particular church at this time, and I just told the women. I was in a group chat with the women on social media, and I told them, that he had hit me, and they just told me to file a restraining order, so I did. I didn't want to. I was just doing what I was told to do. So I went to get the TPO that day, and the judge and I talked about the one I had filed before. I told him I had just canceled it, and I told the judge that Marcus, said some kids die young, but some live to grow old. And the judge thought that was a weird statement, and he told me not to cancel this one. And I didn't cancel it, but I ended up allowing it to expire because TPOs are only 7 days. Then you have to go back to court to extend them for a year. And then the people at that church I was attending, they also told me to just go to court, since he had a court date. They told me to just show up in the courtroom and let the judge know that he had hit me. But as I was entering that particular courthouse, he was walking out. So he knew that I was headed into the courthouse. When I returned home later, he was just sitting on the back porch with his dog. I had changed the locks a couple of times, and I didn't want him to have a key, but I figured he must have made a key. He must have made a copy of the key without telling me. So I just opened up the back door, and he was like, he didn't care about the fact that he had hit me. He was just like, am I going to get arrested? And I told him that he wasn't, but I didn't mention that I had requested another TPO be served to him. And then, I would watch his social media, like his videos and stuff. I would just watch them if I could. Sometimes I couldn't stomach everything, like the crazy pictures he would post, but I was watching this video and he was just on social media talking about he was concerned that he might get arrested. That's just what he was sharing with his followers, that he was concerned that he might get arrested. He wasn't concerned that he and I go back and forth with arguments. He wasn't concerned about anything that was wrong in our home or that may have even been wrong within him. He was just concerned that he might be getting arrested. He and I began talking about making house rules, but we never sat down to do so. My mind was rarely at rest, so I couldn't prepare any requests for house rules, so I kept putting it off. I just couldn't process my thoughts. Um, but about a week after I filed the TPO, he and I decided that we were going to make house rules. So we were going to make house rules that very night when he got off work. But at this point, I'm just not trusting him. I'm like, I just felt like he was a liar. He wasn't going to hold up to his end of the bargain no matter what we decided. So when it became time to pick him up from work, I wasn't there. He called me and I told him that I didn't want to live with him and that he needed to call the cops and just meet me at the house. I wanted him to call the cops because I was like, I didn't want to just be there alone with him because I felt like he might get violent. So I wanted the cops to stand by.